Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
TimeCast mit Tom Reimann und David Bell.
Let's hop into this time machine. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to another episode of TimeCast.
Is it though?
Is it TimeCast? The show where we get hyped about stuff and things from the past. I'm your co-host, Tom Ryman.
I'm David Bell.
Okay, so again, I still don't know if you introduced me or if I'm supposed to introduce myself. This is
right.
Jason Pargin,
right.
And we are here on the day that, if you've not heard, Gene Hackman has passed away. So it has put a kind of a dark cloud over everything. The greatest actor and the greatest movie star, period. There's no one else who did both of those things the way he did.
I've been mentally preparing myself for this because he was 95.
He's 95,
but yeah.
Him and Morgan
like,
Freeman I've been sort of bracing for.
How old is Morgan Freeman now?
He's got to be like the same age, man.
All right.
Or close. He's probably not in his 90s, but...
The only thing is I'm seeing a lot, and I realize I'm delaying the entire show, but the only thing is I'm seeing a whole lot of quotes from his co-stars going on Twitter or they're filming little reactions, and all of them are, look, we know Gene could be tough. And we know that on set, like under that gruff exterior, we know he could be difficult and demanding, but you have to understand, underneath that gruff, that kind of asshole exterior was the greatest actor, a generous and warm. There's all these like, look, we all know what this man was like to work with, to the point that even Bill Murray, one of the most horrible people to ever be on a film set with. Like, he would physically fight people who he didn't like. Was like on the set of the Royal Tenenbaums, he had to get in between Gene Hackman and the director and be like, hey, look, I'm Bill Murray. I'm a dick, and I'm telling you, you're out of line. Like, even I think what you're doing is awful. So
Godzilla x Kong situation.
Oh, yeah. Hey, imagine Gene Hackman get like a twee film explained to him by Wes Anderson is also very delightful. Now that I think about it, of like it's just like I like to imagine Gene Hackman at no point understood that movie and was angry the entire time and did a wonderful job.
Just Tommy Lee Jonesing his way through it.
Yeah, exactly. Just like
just quietly simmering. He's really good in it, though.
He's great in name a movie he's not good in. Like The Birdcage, pick anything. And so that's the thing, because he clearly hated acting. Because when he retired, he didn't. It's not like a lot of guys where they'll do cameos and they'll show up on the talk shows. Like, they got to cling to their fame a little bit. Gene Hackman left town and he was gone. He retired the way Johnny Carson did, where a lot of people thought he was dead. He went to Santa Fe and you never saw him. So he never set foot back in LA. He did not call people. He did not talk to anyone. It's like, no, I put that hell of a life behind me. I did it. I made my money. You will never see me again. I could not, if I get too desperate, then I will just get a job. I will never come back.
Right. Yeah, he fucked off right out of Mooseport there. And then
he left on Welcome to Mooseport.
Oh, yeah.
Very Sean Connery of him.
Yeah, he was like, you know what? I'm done. Fuck this. And then, like, I think I saw one picture of him years later. It was like a paparazzi shot of him at a gas station getting gas. And that was it. And it was like, other than that, yeah, he was fucking
I saw a
gone.
picture of him recently, like out in public. He looked 95 years old.
He looked 95, yeah.
But at the moment, the circumstances are bizarre.
Yeah, it's like a Gene Hackman movie.
Yeah.
The circumstances right now.
It's for those who have not heard, he was found in his home. Again, he's 95 years old, found it in his mansion in Santa Fe. And there were, and again, we do not know the final details.
Nope.
But there were 25 dead Yakuza assassins around him. And then it looked like the closest thing the police can put together is that there was one final guy and that Gene Hackman like swiped at him with his katana. The assassin's like, oh, haha, you missed. And then he stabbed and killed, unfortunately, Gene Hackman. But then the assassin stood there celebrating and then fell in half. His top half sliding to the ground. We don't know. That's just what it looks like. That there was that moment where, and it's like he didn't know he was already dead. But that's how I hope.
Right now, which half hit the floor first? We're still waiting for those details.
Jason, thank you so much for being here. Do you want to, at the start of this, just tell everybody where they can find you, what you're up to?
Don't fast forward past this part. Listen, because I know I've been promoting the same book for the last year. There is a rumor that on Sunday, that is March the 2nd, that the book I've been promoting for the last year, I'm starting to worry about this Black Box of Doom, is going to be $3 for one day only. They're doing like an ebook promotion. That's what I've heard. I'm not telling you if you were thinking about buying it today at full price. I'm not telling you to wait. Please, if you were thinking of paying $30 for the hardback, go ahead. Money is worthless. I should have your money instead of you. I'm just saying, I've heard a rumor that on Sunday, March 2nd, for that day and that day only, they're going to do a $2.99 ebook sale, all ebook formats. It's just a rumor. Now, I did hear the rumor from the people in charge of setting the price of the book, so that it should be pretty reliable. But again, the name of the book is I'm Starting to Worry About This Black Box of Doom. Go read the reader reviews if you have doubts over whether it's just my friends saying that it's good. See what the strangers have said.
Yeah, true maniacs enjoy it, so.
Yeah.
Unrelated to Jason whatsoever.
You know what? Speaking of true maniacs, we should probably thank some producers before we get started. Big old thank you to @NerdNumbers was glad to talk wrestling with Dave and Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to Zero Charisma.
Thank you.
Thank you to 2001: A Space McNulty Odyssey.
Thank you.
Thank you to A Thumb in the Honeydew.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to Aaron Burser.
Thank you.
Thank you to AJ.
Thank you.
Thank you to Andrew. Jason deserves more hype, McGuire.
Thank you.
And thank you to Andrew. How demands a single act of kindness.
Thank you.
We'll see.
There it was. You just got it. All right, let me jump in here. Thank you to Asking Seven.
Thank you.
Thank you to Ballet Karate Hulk.
Thank you.
Thank you to BLT22EWHVIS-B.
Thank you.
Thank you to Bootler Brutlison.
Thank you.
Thank you to Brian, who Tom knows.
Thanks.
Thank you to Brockway Loves the Meat Millie.
Thank you.
Thank you to Burrito, the skankiest slut in town.
Thank you.
And thank you to buy Jason Pargin's highly controversial new book, I'm Starting to Worry About This Black Box of Doom, out now.
Thank you. Hey. All right.
No need to wait until Tuesday or Sunday. Just go ahead and buy it.
Just
buy
get
it today.
So we're doing trailers from February of 1995. For people who don't know, we're going to do this like once a month just for fun. We did it during the strike, and we had so much fun doing it. We just thought we'd do it from not just the 90s, but any era. But we're at February 1995. Top 10 trailers, omitting the ones that rolled over from last month.
Yeah.
So these are the top 10 new trailers, starting with number 10, Hoop Dreams.
Dave means top 10 in terms of grossing that month, February 1995.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
So number 10, Hoop Dreams. A movie I had never seen. I'd only heard the title.
It won every possible award that a documentary can win. If you go on a list of the top 10 greatest documentaries of all time, it's either at number 1 or it's in the top 3 or 4. And you will never find a list that leaves it off. This was filmed over the course of like 5 years, basically taking two kids who dreamed of playing in the NBA and tracking their progress through high school and through the ups and downs, and basically making a point of how unlikely that dream is versus how many kids have it. And spoiler, they are not playing in the NBA, but it is an all-time masterpiece by every single person's opinion.
Can you imagine like trying to play in the NBA? Something that, like you said, like doesn't happen for most people, and there is a documentary crew like, go on, come on, and it's like, well, fuck, now I have to do it. Like now I have to get into the NBA. Like that. It's just like what an added pressure that these kids had. I didn't even know this was a documentary, by the way. I don't know sports movies. I knew this was a basketball movie because of the name.
Yeah, I remember when this came out. I've never seen it though. I remember it being a big deal.
The fact that it's a documentary and what it's about makes me actually more intrigued by it.
It's my understanding, even if you care nothing about sports or basketball or the NBA whatsoever, it's not about that. It's about, because the one thing you need to know is that in the NBA, the rosters are much smaller than any other sport. So if you're dreaming of playing in the NFL, at least you can say, well, every NFL team has like 80 guys on the roster that come to spring training. Those are huge rosters. In the NBA, it's 13 guys and there's only 30 teams. It is a few hundred jobs in the world. So if you're dreaming of that, it's so unlikely. And so, for example, here, like one of the guys, I think, gets a knee injury during like the high school playoffs, and like that's it. Like that's kind of the end of your opportunity. That was wild. Your chance to get accepted into a big school, and then to from there to hopefully shine to the point that you can get invited to the draft or whatever. And it takes so little to derail it, but it's about this journey of, there's not enough movies about kind of watching a dream die. That Coen Brothers movie Inside Llewyn Davis is about this guy who just was so sure he was going to be, a music star, a rock star, or a folk singer, and just watching him realize it's not going to happen for him. And of course, nobody went to see that movie. Nobody wants to see that story, but there should be more about that, because it's about like coming to terms with the fact that, no, I'm just kind of an ordinary person. I'm good, but I'm not at that upper echelon where you have to be.
Right. That's a way more communal experience for people.
It reminds me of one of my favorite Onion headlines: "Man with dream to open a liquor store achieves dream." Where it's like, just aim for the middle. You'll be fine. No, I feel like, especially with sports, like, because there's still drama there, right? In someone accepting this stuff. I feel like sports does have a few movies about not quite making it, though, right? Because sports movies aren't really about. This is the thing. I said that I don't watch sports movies because I don't know much about sports, which is a silly thing to say, because it's like someone saying like I don't watch like crime movies because I don't know much about how to be a cop. Yeah, where it's like it's a movie. It has drama. It'll explain it for you. It's fine. And so like I don't know. I guess my question is, do a lot of sports movies deal more with like the struggle than like we have to play this game and then win this game? That feels
like
boring.
I'm not too into sports movies, but I love sports documentaries. Like I watch a lot of the 30 for 30s and a lot of the Netflix ones. There's a lot of them that are kind of similar to this, like The Best That Never Was. Marcus Dupree, I think.
Oh.
He was, I think that's right, but it's like he was like this super head, this huge like generational talent, had all this promise, and then he just sort of got dicked over by all the people who were like in his ear, and he wound up in like the Canadian Football League or something. It was completely busted. And there's a few like that, like Christian Laettner too, who was like, I think he was drafted like I think he was in the draft the same year as Michael Jordan. So there's a couple, there's like, this story does show up in docs a lot because it's
That makes sense.
way more common.
Well, yeah. Also, if you're filming a doc, it's like you don't get to decide.
You don't get to
if the
decide what
person you're
happens. Yeah.
following-
You can't write the story.
Yeah.
In fictional movies, the baseball movie Bull Durham was about this because that was about a bunch of minor league baseball players, and Kevin Costner was playing a guy who held the all-time home run record in the minor leagues, but could not. There were certain pitches he just couldn't hit, and every time he tried to go to the majors, he'd get sent back down. So he was at the tail end of his career as a very good minor league player, one of the 1,000 best baseball players on the planet. But that's the difference between being a multi-millionaire and having beer commercials and being an absolute nobody. And it's just about this long season playing out. And these people, it's like, it's another year of our lives. We're not going to make it, and just kind of fading into that realization. And also, it has been long forgotten that the original Rocky was about this.
Yeah.
It was about a man losing a fight, but then it doesn't matter because he's reclaimed some pride and self-discipline.
Yeah.
He meets his the woman of his soulmate, and it doesn't matter. It's like, this thing I've chased my whole life. I got a moment in the spotlight. I gave it my all. I gave this guy the fight of his life. I didn't go down. I made it, and that's it. It's okay that I didn't win. And then all of these sequels just kept getting stupider and stupider.
Right.
Where he literally ends the Cold War by the fourth movie
By fighting a Russian cyborg. It is more like he does get like a taste of his dream in Rocky, though. He gets to touch greatness with that one great moment. So. But yeah, it's definitely closer to like that instead of like the triumphant eye of the tiger thing.
Because the character, if people have not seen the original Rocky, which
he's
I bet
a palooka, he's shaking people down.
Most of the people watching this haven't, is the whole point is he's over the hill. He's 30. He's turned 30 and he's still boxing in a gym, and they've like demoted him out of his locker to where all of his stuff is now just being kept in like a trash bag on the wall. And they're like, because some younger, hotter fighter is now taking a spot in that gym, and he's not lining up any of the good fights anymore. And it's this sad ending to a guy. And they talk about how, early on, he had all these great, this great knockout punch and this iron jaw, but it just didn't pan out. He didn't want to train. He didn't get with the right people. He didn't. And so he's just kind of, he's directionless. He's doing crime. And then he gets this moment to try to be the guy. And the movie even does a great job of, because it's not like this Air Bud thing. Like, well, technically a dog can play basketball. It's a case where Apollo Creed, he sets up a fight as like a publicity stunt and intentionally picks this Italian jerk off because it'd be like funny to like beat up this guy on the 4th of July, and it's like the centennial. And he just lines it up because he needs a last minute opponent, and nobody else will take it because they've not had time to train. So it's the
Buster Douglas fight.
Yeah, exactly. They grab a guy out of nowhere and they need somebody to fight. It's something they're trying to line up a fight at the last minute. It's perfectly set up. It makes perfect sense. There's no villain in the story. Apollo Creed's not a villain. He's the champ and needs a fight. And this is like, he just thinks it's funny that his whole gimmick is like the Italian stallion. It's like, oh, that's great. I'll beat the crap out of this guy.
Love to beat the shit out of a guy called that.
Yeah. And then he comes through and kind of reclaims some of his pride. And then that should have been like a perfect little Oscar winning movie. And then Stallone immediately is like, well, yeah, but what if we did it again? Only this time.
What if we do it again and then I get to win this time?
It's like, cool, okay. So you actually
I feel like you missed the point of your own movie.
Of your own movie, the movie you got made. I love it.
Anyway, so that's Hoop Dreams.
Yeah, real quick though, Air Bud but boxing. Why haven't they done that one? Because it'd be great. He'd win every one because people are like, I don't want to punch a dog, man.
No, it's this vicious dog that just attacks his crotch immediately, just chews his genitals off. Like, oh my God, who set this fight up?
All right, let's talk about Murder in the First.
Oh man, I completely forgot about this movie, and it came exploding back into my memory when we saw this trailer.
I almost watched this the other day.
How old were you guys in 1995?
I was 13 in 1995.
Okay.
I was, what?
Oh, no, wait.
11?
No, wait. I'm sorry. I was 12 in 1995.
So
I entered 7th grade that year.
No 12-year-old was watching this movie, hopefully, because the 90s were just filthy with this kind of movie where there are these very glossy legal thrillers,
I've
mysteries.
watched many of these movies.
That's depressing because this is not like a movie for this. There's no fun in this movie. It's very sad guy is wrongly accused of a crime and a lawyer played by a Christian Slater who looks 17, but he was in this era where he was coming off being the biggest movie star in the world for a while. When he was in Young Guns and all of these young hip movies, Pump Up the Volume, and but was now trying to do grown-up stuff because you're trying to transition through that awkward phase, but he still looks like pretty Christian Slater heartthrob, like teen magazine heartthrob. And so he's trying to do like this serious Oscar role as an attorney for this guy. He's accused of murder, and it's very depressing. It's like, this is going to be our Oscar movie, and I think everybody hated it.
Oh yeah, you think Leonardo DiCaprio had this stage too, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like it looks like a child in a school play playing an adult, where you're like, you're too baby faced still.
We've got one of those coming up on this list.
I think DiCaprio had the benefit of picking better movies.
I was going to say, you have to pick the right roles.
This movie looks like the radio of courtroom dramas, in that it looks like it is so trying to be one of those capital letters important dramas, and it looks like so corny. Like Kevin Bacon is the man that Christian Slater's defending, and he's doing a whole ass thing. It's like I said, it's kind of a radio he's doing.
Yeah, I almost watched this the other day because I was like really thirsting for a courtroom drama. But it seems like
I might watch this tonight.
Well, it seems like it's less on the courtroom drama and more it's like they found a friendship in each other, and I'm like,
that's it. That's right. I will say that remembering this movie, I did not have any idea that it was a period piece. Like it's about a guy in Alcatraz.
Right. Well, it's hard to look at
more interesting
Slater.
for me.
Yeah, Christian Slater has 90s face.
Right, he did not. That face did not exist in the 1940s. We didn't make that face yet. It's like when he shows up in Robin Hood or in The Name of the Rose. You're like, get out of here! What are you doing?
I'm just imagining you guys 11 and 12 years old sneaking into this R-rated courtroom drama and just watching these people weeping on the screen about the injustices of. And you're sitting there with your popcorn. It's like,
yep.
Yeah.
This may surprise you. I was a weird little kid.
Kevin Bacon is giving his all in this part. I can tell. He's come a long way since Footloose.
Yeah.
I rented Sleepers, Jason. After reading the book.
Oh, man. Reading the book.
Yeah.
So you weren't a cool kid, is what I'm hearing.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I mean,
I was not.
Has anybody seen this? Jason, have you seen Murder in the First?
I do not doubt that I saw it back in the day, because I'm telling you, back in the 90s, you went to Blockbuster, the pickings were dire.
Oh, yeah.
There was you did not have it. I'm sorry, kids, you have the wealth of entertainment available to you right now. You have no concept of what 1995 movie night was like. It was not this fun thing like, hey, let's get some movies. You would get there and everything that was good had already been rented. They only had like 3 copies of every movie. And so you would just get like, here's this thing that came out 3 months ago, and now the tapes or the DVDs. We probably didn't even have a DVD player yet at this point. It's like, this is now in because everybody's seen it and it sucks. And you'd sit there and watch it and it would be sad because you had, you have to understand, for all of human history, a person's choices didn't matter until very recently. Like you kind of just had to take what they gave you. I know that sounds like a strange thing to say.
It was kind of a game. Like I remember going with friends to the video store and just
It was
rolling them dice.
It was fun
it's like-
for me, but that's like, yeah, it's the same thing that you're describing. Like we would go to the movies, the Blockbuster, like on Friday night or something, a group of friends, and just try to, deliberately try to find the wildest, craziest. Like that's how we saw Dead Alive. That's how we watched
Sometimes
Evil Dead 2.
magic happens.
Yeah. We find a lot of, and that's also how we watch like really shitty things like Anaconda's, like the Hunt for the Blood Diamond or whatever that
Right.
one was called. I don't know.
No.
And Frankenhooker.
Oh yeah. I think I've told this story on here before, is my dad telling me about how one day he was bored and wanted to go see a movie and was just like, what's this? Raiders of the Lost Ark. All right. And walked in and just like, oh, okay. Holy shit. Just one of the best movies ever made. Got
Just
it.
completely cold,
Yeah.
walking in.
Yeah. Just literally just like, all right, I wonder what this
And
is.
2 hours to kill.
Holy shit. Murder in the First, by the way, they throw out Gary Oldman in the trailer, and that
I
threw me
didn't
off.
even see him.
Oh yeah, they even list him, but I want to list some of the other people in this movie. William H. Macy is in this movie. Stephen Tobolowsky is in this movie. The judge is R. Lee Army. And Brad Dourif's in this movie. And so that alone, I'm like, well, shit. Brad Dourif, I'm assuming, is another inmate, right? Because
Oh yeah, he's going to be
inmate face.
some kind of. He has murderer face.
yeah, I assume he's the guy who kills Kevin Bacon. Assuming Kevin Bacon gets killed in this, it's got to be getting shanked by Brad Dourif, but we'll see.
I mean that does sound like a prophecy.
Yeah,
Getting
that sounds
shanked
like
by
something
Brad
that'll
Dourif.
happen. But yeah, now, I kind of want to see this just because it's
I'm
stacked.
definitely gonna watch it, man.
Yeah. Speaking of a movie I'm definitely going to watch, I guess because I've already watched several times, In the Mouth of Madness is the next one.
I'm surprised this
year,
was
by
this
the
high on the top 10.
This month, I will say a lot of this month is people seeing the exact movies I would see this month. But yeah, John Carpenter fucking...
It's John Carpenter doing a Lovecraft movie basically with Sam Neill about a Stephen King type whose like books come to life. It's one
In
of
the
my
Mouth of
favorite
Madness,
horror
baby.
movies.
Yeah, I saw this real young, and it's...
I didn't see this
Fucking
until
great.
many years later on Showtime.
Oh, no shit.
That's how I saw it on cable, yeah.
I grew up with this movie. Me and my sister watched this as kids, and maybe we shouldn't have. The deja vu scene where it just keeps looping.
Oh God.
God damn.
I was, to be perfectly honest, like even though I was a little horror brat, I was too scared to watch this movie when it came out.
This movie's fucking scary.
Now, I would assume that a lot of the listeners are looking up each of these trailers and watching them along with us. If so, you're going to note something, because if you go back and watch any trailer from before, say, 2005, the one thing that jumps out is you have that voiceover that once upon a time it was so common because it was the same that Don LaFontaine, I think, was the name of the announcer. As like, in a world where whatever. And
It's
they
a
used
trope
to be
now. It's like a meme. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, and they've they abandoned that a long time ago because you can look at trailers from 10 years ago and they don't have the VO on this list. This film right here is the only one that does not have the voiceover. Like the trailer for Pulp Fiction that we're going to do next, it's got voiceover at the start, and it's startling. It's like, oh, that's right, that was from the trailer voiceover era, but this one doesn't have it, and it stands out. It's like, it's so much better. Just let it speak for itself. I don't know why they ever thought the VO was a good idea. I truly don't. You watch these, none of them need it.
I think it's for the same reason we have that, like, you hear that story of how like Netflix shows are designed so people are half watching it. Like, I think it's that. It's just like people would have the TV on, or like it's just they wanted to like really spell it out to people, right?
I just think it's more
like,
of that, like, because like if you remember further back with trailers, they used to have like remember the trailer for Psycho? It's like a 3-minute film of Alfred Hitchcock just walking around the set talking about making a movie and like speaking, like,
explaining.
they really
the movie.
they really wanted to like hold your hand, I guess. So I guess just as like decades went on, they just started to trust that people would be able to follow it more, like have a little more respect for audiences.
Ads are kind of like, I assume it's what corporations think the dumbest people need.
Yes,
right? Like it's aimed for the dumbest demographic, according to the people in charge.
Right. That's yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, like, you do in trailers get to see how, like, slowly more sophisticated audiences get by, like, yeah, you put this next to something from, like, the 2000s next to something from 2010.
I don't think it's
and just
necessarily that audiences were getting more sophisticated. It's just I think people were being offered more sophisticated things.
Yeah. Now, well, I don't know. I mean, trailer-wise.
That's true. Yeah, that's
where-
true. Yeah,
'cause
that is true. Never mind.
Before we started recording, we were talking about, like, the Shining trailer and the Alien trailer, where it's like
Batman
there
89.
there were trailers back in the day where they would go like, yeah, we can do something cool with this, and then people will actually want to see it more that way. It's probably just the combination, right, of these are getting cranked out. It's all to say that this trailer does feel like one that they spent a little more time on. I have to note that they treat John Carpenter in this like a big deal, which I didn't really think about, but it's like, yeah, I guess he would be.
He had that reputation definitely still at the time for being. That's one of the reasons why I was put off, why I was too scared to watch this movie, because Halloween scared the shit out of me. So,
right.
Um,
It's just funny how horror is the only genre since the beginning. You mentioned Hitchcock, where the director is a more of a draw than the cast in the trailers.
right, because, yeah, I guess that's the only way to franchise something like that. That's interesting, and I wonder if that led to, like, directors sort of getting typecast or pigeonholed.
Right, they're the people who are responsible for scaring you, right? I guess comedies are probably the same, right? Where they're like, the Farley brothers,
And, oh, gosh, I'm blanking on his name. Oh, man, the guy who did Some Like It Hot. Billy Wilder.
Right. So it's like anything that evokes. It's just funny how they don't do it with other things. I was watching The Pelican Brief and I realized that was the director of All the President's Men, and I was like, oh, they should fucking spin them that way. Of like, if you
They
like
do
adult
sometimes.
movies, serious movies. This is your guy. He's at it again, making a serious movie.
They do that sometimes, but I think it's usually like we'll see it like from the director of this movie that everybody loved, rather than saying the person's name. Anyway, In the Mouth of Madness. You guys should watch it if you've not seen it. It's great.
This might be my favorite John Carpenter film.
It's definitely my favorite Lovecraft adaptation, or it's not really an adaptation. It's just like in that style.
Yeah.
Outside of like the most recent Color Out of Space. And yeah, I think it might be. Well, no, The Thing is there.
I know. That's why it's wild to say this. It was the first time I realized horror could be like this, though, where horror can be like weirdly psychological and abstract.
And really,
like the scene where they loop the scene, like I mentioned, where I was like, I didn't know movies could do that shit.
It just
That's
relentlessly plays with your mind and doesn't even end in a place that like.
Yeah, the meta
fucks with you the entire time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Speaking of movies that I didn't realize movies could be like, Pulp Fiction. Again, this month, wild month.
February 95.
I was 22 when this movie came out. So I was like that college kid. And prior to this, the movie Reservoir Dogs had went viral, quote unquote. This is before the internet existed, because you just heard it kept coming up in like magazines, and there were musicians talking about it. It became really buzzy to talk about this movie. You've got to go hunt down this movie called Reservoir Dogs. And so my local, again, I was in a tiny town with like 5,000 people, but in my college town, they had enough of a video store that they had a copy of Reservoir Dogs, a film that, again, did not make any money in the theater. And I could not believe what I was watching. I made everyone I knew watch Reservoir Dogs. As like, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that film existed. So in magazines and like Entertainment Weekly, stuff like this, they started like, there was a lot of buzz around Pulp Fiction. That's like, this is the next movie from that Reservoir Dogs guy. Not a blockbuster, but among people in Hollywood, among celebrities, among famous people, everybody has seen it. There was like, this is getting all of because, it went to Cannes and won the Palme d'Or. All the film festival stuff, like this is going to win all the Oscars. It was one of the first movies where I was like followed the buzz of it. Like somehow I was aware of it because I'm not like in Hollywood or whatever. And then so I wound up seeing it 4 times in the theater. It changed my life. I based my whole personality around this.
I'm trying to think what came before it that was like it, where like they're like that combination of like crime comedy and then like I feel like it's the weird like Guy Ritchie-esque coincidences right throughout, and like Guy Ritchie is a later version of this where it's like that idea of like putting forth the premise of like criminals are just dudes. Like that feels like
it's
the
like the
unique
Italian
sauce of
Job.
Pulp Fiction, I guess. Yeah, where it's like watching 2 criminals talk about trivial shit as they go to, kill a guy or
Yeah, I remember
threaten him.
that's what really captivated me when I saw this movie for the first time. It's just all the banter between these 2 like dudes who are these hardcore murderers, and then they're just talking about the most innocuous stuff.
Right, it's the idea like criminals can't be casual, and suddenly realizing it was the same with Reservoir Dogs, right? They're talking about tipping and Madonna and stuff like that. And like, yeah, I only saw this probably more as a teenager. I feel like Jason, you were exactly the prime age this was targeted as or for, and it still remains my favorite Tarantino, I think.
I think hands down. It's I
Yeah.
think this is his. He doesn't like consider it his masterpiece, but I don't think he ever approached this again. And I remember walking out of the theater, and the guy in front of me enraged because it's like, well, we saw that guy get shot, and then he's just alive again. Because he had never seen a movie in his life where it was told out of order, but without like the title card 24 hours earlier. Like it's just. You're left to figure it out. He had never seen a movie in his life that did that. This guy was an adult, and he probably hadn't. You don't realize how weird that was,
Right.
at the time, and the way it's structured, and everything, and all the little monologues. There's phrases from that movie that became a permanent part of the language. Every movie after that was for the next several years. It was like when The Matrix came out. Everybody was just trying to match that style, and every trailer was trying to promise that their movie was Pulp Fiction, that it had the witty, like Guy Ritchie came along and they kept trying to find the next thing. It didn't matter because it wasn't that genre that people liked. It wasn't the blood and guts slapstick that became a staple in movies after that. That wasn't what people liked. It was everything. It's you can't recreate what this is. You don't have the ability. You're looking at the surface stuff. You're not understanding the way this is put together. All of the influences and everything. Like everything, a film nerd that has spent his entire life obsessed with film and the history of film, just bring it all to bear on this one thing he had been waiting to make his whole life. Yeah, and now it's something where so many of the scenes are kind of. It's like when you watch Jaws, like nothing in Jaws surprises you because, like, well, this has been parodied a billion times.
Part of film language, yeah.
Yeah, it's not, it's like, oh yeah, there's the scene where he says we're going to need a bigger boat. None of it hits you the way it did. Man, when I saw this, I've never felt like this in a theater before or since.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what. When I finally saw it, like when it came out, I was obviously too little to see it or too young to see it. But like my folks were lent it immediately the next year. So I watched it on tape like later this year, like 1995. And that was the thing that like I'd never seen a story told that way. Just
exactly.
The way it's told, like completely. And just the fact that it was some of the stuff was so bizarre too. It was just like I couldn't predict where it was going. And it was a singular experience seeing this movie for the first time.
And I'm sure there was like inspirations before it, but like I'm trying to think of a modern equivalent. And I was thinking of something like Everything Everywhere All at Once, where it's not really equivalent, but that's like
kind of
movies where you watch it and you go like, oh, I didn't know movies got to do this.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know movies got to be like really emotional and tackle stuff like nihilism while having like a fight where people have awards up their ass, like it's like feels like it's the same kind of evolution of like trying to push the boundaries in a way that you simply didn't not realize you could pull off. At least not yet.
There are very few films in your life you're going to watch where you genuinely do not know what's going to happen. And I don't even mean like other films on this list where it's a bunch of twists and stuff like that. Like even then you could predict, well, it's going to turn out that it's whoever the killer is. It's not this guy. It's going to be a twist. It's going to be some other guy. Pulp Fiction, you have no idea what's about to happen. And when, Bruce Willis's character runs into the crime boss that's after him in the street, and you think, oh, I wonder how he's going to get out of this. You have no idea what's about to happen.
Oh, yeah.
It's not if we paused the film and interviewed 1 billion people and asked all of them, what do you think is about to happen next in the scene? 0 would guess what's about to happen in that scene.
That's actually the other thing is, I guess, like, audiences, like, being subversive is now not subversive in the sense that, like, if you're watching a movie and you realize it's trying to be twisty, you start trying to figure it out. I think even if you showed this to someone who had no idea, had no knowledge of this movie, I think even modern audiences, like, would not be able to figure out what the hell is going to happen next in most of these scenes. Like, it still holds up, I guess is what I'm saying. Man, I gotta watch this again. I haven't watched it in a while.
Same, yeah, it's been a minute.
This is one of those movies like Back to the Future where I haven't watched it in like 10 years, and I'm like, why would I? It's up here. I remember the entire film. I watched it.
I guarantee
times.
you, I can recite most of Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get it word for word. I can pretty much go line by line.
Yeah. And I think we can all say the same thing about this next film,
sure,
right?
Yeah, of course.
That obviously beat out Pulp Fiction. Heavyweights. Classic heavyweights. Starring Ben Stiller, apparently.
Yeah.
This is about a fat camp, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the kids are rebelling against Ben Stiller. I can only assume it's the same character from Dodgeball.
He's doing the same voice, too. He's just white.
He
human.
is. I saw the cover of this movie a million times. It never clicked in my mind what horrors this movie had inside. I kind of need to see it now.
I doubt you need to see it. This is one of those movies I think was probably very progressive, like back in 1995, in the same way that a Hollywood movie back in 1995 doing a movie about like acceptance of gay people at the time was bold, and it's like, yeah, this is actually, but today you could literally go to jail for making it like it's, this is a hate crime. But
Shallow Hal.
Yeah, that is a great example where at the time it's like, yeah, see, this is about how, seeing the goodness inside of people where, it's just, it's a series of horrible fat jokes. And it's like, hey, you shouldn't, these disgusting subhumans, you shouldn't be mean to them. It's like, okay, you've not quite gotten there. And it's same thing here. It's like it's like this fat camp, but you're supposed to, you're supposed to love these kids, but they're also just eating nonstop, just
eating melted
candy.
chocolate off each other's bellies.
Yeah.
It's not a joke.
It's like, well, yeah, these are basically animals, of course, but you still, they're deserving of love. It's like, okay, you're trying to do something 1995. I get it, but.
I've seen at least part of this film.
Is it good?
No. And I remember it like kind of taking off with some kids that were around my age for whatever reason. And I had no idea that I was always kind of remembered this movie, had no idea until like very recently, like maybe 8 years ago or 10 years ago, that it was Ben Stiller in it.
Oh, yeah. It's also the writer-director of The Mighty Ducks.
Judd Apatow
who also
wrote
did...
it.
Well, Judd Apatow co-wrote it with him, which is also...
I gasped when I saw that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, this guy went on to make a bunch of Adam Sandler films. Little Nicky and Sandy Wexler. Remember Sandy
So not
Wexler?
the successful Adam Sandler films.
No.
I watched
Mr.
Sandy
Deeds.
Wexler.
He did Mr.
I
Deeds.
sat through 2.5 hours of Sandy Wexler.
Nice.
I do remember Mr.
He's
Deeds.
also... Yeah. Yeah, my God. This is like where was Ben Stiller in this point of his career?
It's after Singles and the Ben Stiller show. It's
Okay.
right before the Cable Guy. So I think he's still
So he
trying
was-
to find his footing right now.
Yeah. Oh my God! I just remembered that he's doing or not Succession. Severance right now.
If you guys have not seen Severance, listeners out there, if you can somehow get hold of an Apple Plus subscription, probably came free with your phone. That's how I got mine. I didn't know I had it until it's like, nah, it came with your phone. Severance is a masterpiece. It's genuinely, it's beautiful, and it takes them 3 years to make a season of it, but for a reason. They cost $20 million per episode. That seriously is the budget of Severance, and it takes place in an office, but you can tell where they spent the money. It has Christopher Walken in it and John Turturro, and it's a beautiful piece of filmmaking. This is Ben Stiller having grown into an excellent filmmaker, and everything about it is so lovingly put together. I listened to the companion podcast they make about it, and they're so pretentious about every aspect of the show, every little element of the background, all of the sets are real. They care so much about it. No, it's beautiful.
It's funny because I would argue the Cable Guy tipped us off that he was going to be really good at like dark stuff, and then he just got kind of. They were just like, no, you got to do comedies.
And
you got to do comedies.
The Ben Stiller show was really ambitious, too much so. Like people didn't. Like it had really weird sketches, but they were filmed really well. And he was, it probably cost way more than what they wanted it to. There's a anecdote that came up because they're doing all the press for Severance right now, where in Severance they were shooting a love scene between Adam Scott's character and another one, and Ben Stiller was running camera on it because they're doing like a handheld camera because they wanted to be like in real close with the actors, like they were in a tent and they wanted to be right up. And while he was filming it, he tripped and fell on top of them. And Adam Scott said, "There's this bizarre moment where it's like I'm in a Ben Stiller movie from the 90s." Because clumsy Ben Stiller is falling on top of my nude body. It's like, whoa. And it's exactly like Derek Zoolander. Like if he was tasked with filming a love scene in a film, this is exactly what would happen. He would trip and fall on top of you and your nude co-star. And it'd be like, whoa. It's like it's this otherworldly
for sure.
Yeah. Like I'm suddenly in Meet the Parents.
Incredible. Anyway, yeah. So check out Heavyweights.
Or not. Check out the Ben Stiller show. Pretty much every alternative comedian that blew up in the 90s was associated with it, I think. That and the Jon Stewart show.
Oh, I forgot about the fucking Jon Stewart show. I'm genuinely curious who's going to pop up in Heavyweights, so I do kind of want to watch it, just because it's got to be like so many. I don't know. Anyway,
like
next
a young
trailer's
Tom
The Quick and the
Hardy
Dead.
is one of the kids.
Right.
Oh shit!
Doing the
Jeremy
voice.
Strong in there. Yeah.
He's clearly an adult, but he's method acting as a child. I mean, this is 30 years ago. How old would he have been, man? Oh, man, he probably was a kid. Anyway.
Yeah.
A chubby teenager falling down into a pie. Like eating a pie off the floor.
Noise happens.
The Quick and the Dead, very appropriate for right now. R.I.P. Gene Hackman.
Gene
directed by Sam Raimi. This trailer is like does not do this movie justice. Like at least Pulp Fiction trailer is like kind of capturing the style.
I do love
this.
I do love that the Pulp Fiction trailer began with a weird gag that I forgot to bring that up. But anyway.
Oh yeah, because they're like throwing away the laurels of it, where they're like, but this movie is like, or this trailer is like trying to like depict it as just like an everyday Western. And it's like, it's a fucking Sam Raimi Western.
Yeah, that's not what it is.
There's a bullet POV cam in this. People have holes blown through them.
And
this
go
movie is out of
through
control.
The air.
Yeah. Like, I can't imagine going into this being like a 70-year-old dude who's just like wants to watch a good old Western and then sitting down to this.
Expecting like a Costner Western.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because this was an era. I don't know if the young people realize that there was a period of like 50 straight years where Westerns were the superhero movies of today. Like they were money for half a century through Hollywood, maybe longer. Like the early days of Hollywood, the first stuff they were shooting was Westerns, and you could make money off of Western through every single decade. Through the 70s, there was a bunch of famous Westerns, the Clint Eastwood era, into the 80s. All of those were huge money makers. And I remember this movie coming out, and I remember this was a period when they're like, man, Westerns are starting to get risky, and you're trying to do a spin on a Western, a star-studded cast. Leo DiCaprio, who looks 13 years old, looks like he's a child dressed up in a cowboy hat. Gene Hackman, Sharon Stone. It's just star-studded. Sam Raimi when he was hot. They spent a lot of money on this. I know that it finished wherever it finished this month. It did not make its money back. People did not like it. Did not get good reviews. Like I remember this being a failure because this was like Sharon Stone trying to make more of a name for herself. There was some backlash against Sharon Stone because she had done Basic Instinct. It's like, is she just like this sex woman? What is this? Can she even act? Does she just, and there's like
she had
some
also
sort
got
of like
this reputation of being like difficult with
Yes.
and they make fun of it on Murderville on her episode, but I do remember like that was so pervasive in the media. It's like, oh, Sharon Stone is like a real tyrant on set. I have no idea if there was any truth to it.
I mean, this feels like it subverts a lot of it because, like, instead of femme fatale, they do like she's like the stranger with no name. Essentially, she's like coming into town, being she's the badass. I will say, the way you described Leonardo DiCaprio is kind of the point of his character as well, where he's supposed to be like, I'm a tough cowboy, and it's just like, no, you're a fucking you're a child in adult's clothes. Is sort of like it's a hell of a film. They also have so many guys in it. Keith David and Lance Hendrickson is in this. Gary Sinise doing an incredible cameo. Yeah. Oh, I want to watch this movie.
This movie's awesome. Yeah. I love
you
this
see
movie.
people every few years, you'll see people bring this up as it totally flew under the radar. And I'm seeing it today, of course, with Gene Hackman passing away, saying, hey, go check out The Quick and the Dead. Of all of the classic roles you're hearing about today, this is the one you're not going to hear about. Go. It's weird. Nobody got it at the time. It was ahead of its time, I would say, probably. Mm-hmm. But this was a period where it would be in 1999 that Wild Wild West would come about, a $150 million Western with Will Smith that would kind of kill the Western for a while. But I remember this movie and thinking, oh yeah, this is a dying genre.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this was like right on the heels of the double whammy of Tombstone and Wyatt Earp, which didn't make money as popular as Tombstone is, but there was like two high-profile westerns that failed in the same year.
Wyatt Earp was a catastrophe financially. It was expensive, and nobody went to see it.
And where was this in the Sam Raimi of it all? Because they mentioned Sam Raimi in this trailer.
It's after Darkman.
I assume because,
after Army of Darkness and Darkman.
Yeah, I think Sam Raimi was like, okay, he's the horror guy who does like Darkman's like horror superhero, right? It's grotesque. Army of Darkness, I think, was his way of being like, I could do other stuff too, because Army of Darkness, not really a horror movie. But like, that's all to say that like, this movie is weirdly, I don't know, I think the plot of it is weirdly traditional. It's just the style in which it was made is so bombastic, so, Sam Raimi, that it's like, I don't know how they would sell it. And
her character is typically a male. It's like you said, it's a familiar story. It's just that's like one of the big subversions is that, and then also just the way it's all Sam Raimi'd out, man.
Forgot that Russell Crowe is in this.
He sure is.
Yeah, he's really crowing it up.
He was an absolute nobody when he was cast in this. He was shooting something in Australia, and I think it was Sharon Stone that saw him. He had done this movie called Romper Stomper that won a bunch of awards, but is a distinctly Australian. He's playing like a white supremacist, and that kind of got his name among Hollywood people, but the public didn't know him at all. But of course, he would become a superstar very soon after this.
Yeah. Sam Raimi has a knack for that. Because Liam Neeson, there's the whole story of in Darkman, that Darkman got him cast in a play that the casting director for Schindler's List saw. and was like, we should probably get this guy in the movie. Like Raimi had an eye for talent.
Well, Sharon Stone picked Russell Crowe, but just being adjacent.
Oh,
to
yeah.
him. And she also apparently picked Sam Raimi.
Oh, did she?
Mm-hmm.
So Sharon Stone has an eye for talent. Mm-hmm. That is nuts that she picked Raimi. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this movie rules. Watch it if you haven't. Gene Hackman plays a real son of a bitch in it.
It's so I guess I want to talk about that because like the side of Gene Hackman who plays a bastard, right? Like Royal Tenenbaums, like anytime he's played a villain, Lex Luthor. I think this movie is like the perfect Gene Hackman as a bastard movie.
Unforgiven.
Where it's like
Yeah,
where this like I think this movie just sums up everything of Gene Hackman as a villain because he's such a good villain in this.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah.
I mean, for those of you who've not seen The French Connection, which I know is a very old movie, it's but that's the movie that won all of the awards and was I think the number one movie at the box office that year, 1971 or whatever year that was. He plays a cop, and this is a movie back in those days that's about the futility of all of that, because it's there. The whole deal is that he's on the trail of like this big heroin deal that's coming down, and in the course of trying to stop it, he just destroys everything. He is so reckless and just abuses suspects, and he's corrupt to the core because all that matters is stopping these drugs from getting on the street. And that was a movie about like you're watching it and he's like cool and he's cool cop and he's doing cool cop stuff. And partway through you realize, oh, he's the problem. And it's played so well and it's so well done in the way he conveys, like it kind of unveils like, yeah, this guy's cool, but he does not think the Constitution is real. And he is willing to risk everyone's life. He does everything is reckless. He does not follow the rules. He is exactly as corrupt as the people he's chasing. It is a subtle in a way that a blockbuster would not be allowed anymore. I know that makes me sound extremely old, that when you see how this film ends, you'll realize like, oh, this was a huge hit. Yes, it was. You could do that. You'll see.
Speaking of huge hits, next trailer is Billy Madison, the Adam Sandler film from the director of, she did CB4. She did Half Baked. This director, let me get her name.
Tamra Davis, right?
Yeah, Tamra Davis.
She's married to Mike D.
She did the Hanson Bop video. She was a music video director and then did like just a bunch of those like I call them the movies that showed up on Comedy Central during the day, right? That I adore all of them. But my goodness, Billy Madison. Have you guys watched this recently?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Within the last couple of years. It's not bad. I remember the weird thing is when I saw this at the time, I hated it.
Oh, really?
I did not think this was funny, which is so strange because I was this movie's target audience at the time.
No one in 1995 thought that of all the films on this list, that this would be the one that would age the best in terms of people still quoting it. Like that speech at the end, like that's still a meme.
Oh yeah, it's a
that
meme.
Everyone in this room is dumber for having listened to this. And that there are these moments that have outlasted everything on this list, probably more so than Pulp Fiction. People quote it day to day, more so than that. No one in 1995 was watching this and thought, oh yeah, Adam Sandler is going to have a career. It's going to span the next 30 years. He's going to be respected. He's going to make $1 billion. It's just, okay, this is this idiot's moment to shine. He gets to be the idiot for a few years and we will totally forget about him, like Rob Schneider. Like he'll come along, have a few dumb movies, and then the world will flush him down the toilet of fame. It's like, no, sorry. This movie holds up better than almost any of this stuff. You could show this movie to people on the other side of the planet and they would probably laugh.
It is the weirdest, like early Adam Sandler. Obviously he's still doing this, but like
so surreal. Billy
Madison as the character is probably one of the most unhinged ones he's done, where it's like Happy Gilmore. Okay, he's an asshole. He has anger issues.
Happy Gilmore's like a real person, though. He's just angry.
Yeah, Billy Madison is like, his brain is bleeding actively during the movie, it seems. Like
he's so close to the water boy.
Yeah, he's like violent, he's hallucinating, and it makes the romantic stuff really disturbing, where you're just like, someone needs to step in.
Well,
this guy is, I'm pretty sure his brain is dying.
Yeah, he's not.
Yeah, he cannot.
Yeah. I love how surreal this one is. Like, I don't think I understood that at the time. Like, I wasn't
right.
Like surreal. I liked some surreal stuff. Like, I was a fan of this short-lived sketch comedy show on Comedy Central at the time called The Vacant Lot, that had just really bizarre sketches. But for whatever reason, this just didn't click with me at the time. But now it's like one of the things I like the most about it. And I think maybe it gets lost a little bit in Sandler's reputation now, because he sort of has like the, for his comedies, it's just sort of like the Ridiculous Six type of like really lowbrow sophomoric humor. But like a lot of his humor was really surreal. I like that aspect of it.
There's that musical number, like he has the big Disney coming into his own musical, the big song near the end, the Showstopper song, and it's
the clown bleeding out of his mouth.
The clown, it's just everything you could see they were just throwing stuff at the wall, like at the script stage, just anything they thought was funny. And it's because later in life, he would get, a reputation for these cash grabs, like Grown Ups, where it's vastly over budget. It's casting all of his friends, and they're just going to some sunny location and just screwing around for 6 weeks and collecting a paycheck. And Rob Schneider and David Spade all get to come along and collect a paycheck to go on vacation. But here he is giving his all. Like, I get it. People who didn't like him, this had to have been like torture. But yeah, no, he is desperately trying to entertain you at every moment here.
That's another thing that I had forgotten about, like some of these earlier movies of his, but this one is so joke dense. It's like an airplane movie.
Let's talk about Boys on the Side.
I remember this one.
I remember the shit out of this movie. I don't think I've ever seen it. I looked up the director. It's his last movie. This is from the director of fucking Funny Lady, Footloose, Steel Magnolias, My Blue Heaven. He was old when he made this. Yeah. This is who's in this? It's got
Whoopi Goldberg, Drew Barrymore, and Mary Louise Parker.
Yes, and they're all very firmly in the 90s.
Oh yeah, they play a Cranberries song over it.
Do the kids know that Whoopi Goldberg used to be one of the biggest Hollywood stars in the world, and was for like a decade straight? She was a superstar. Do the kids know that?
I'm not sure. Do the kids know she won an Oscar?
Yeah.
She has one of the wildest careers, because I grew up with her as Guinan in Star Trek Next Generation, and like Sister Act and her being huge.
Yeah, she was always like a funny person
Star
to
Trek.
me, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forget that she's a stand-up comedian. Like she did stand-up. Her career, I
think she did Comic Relief with Robin Williams, didn't she?
Oh yeah.
Or I might be.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. There's an episode of Star Trek where she teaches Data how to do stand-up comedy. With, I believe, Joe Piscopo shows up in the holodeck as like a notable. He's like, show me a notable comedian from the 20th century.
Oh man, they really called that shot. That's the giant Atari sign in Blade Runner.
I think you hallucinated that episode. I do not think that's real.
Look it up. It's one of the craziest things to happen in Star Trek. There's this whole thing where Data doesn't understand comedy in Star Trek, and like the theory watching it, or the thing that's evident, is like, I think it's just because everybody around him isn't funny, because they're like, yeah, like in the future they just don't have a sense of humor, where they're like, yeah, what's a classic comedian? Joe Piscopo. Let's have him teach Data comedy. And it's like, well, this is why he doesn't understand comedy.
Is Joe Piscopo still alive?
Oh, man.
Yeah, I think so. Unless he was among the Yakuza members that were found at Hackman's house.
All right.
That's why they call him Hackman.
Oh, yep. It wasn't his real name. What are we talking about? Boys on the Side?
Yeah.
This looks like a movie that should have won a bunch of awards. I do not think this was well received. I think there was a stretch of time when I'm not doubting like the motives of the filmmaker or whatever, but there was a lot of like girl power movies where director is a man, writer's a man, producer's a man, and then it's all women in the cast. So you get a lot of moments where it's like what they think women want out of a feminist movie, where it's just some dude gets hit in the penis or something, and or I don't know, some guy's just being a real lout, and it's just, haha, look at him get what's his. You hate men, don't you, ladies? I don't know, 90s era movie feminism, when there was no women involved on the creative side of it, it could be something. It really could.
Oh yeah.
I've never seen this film. I'm sure it's fine. You read the synopsis and
It was written by the guy who wrote Single White Female.
Amazing. Yeah, it's just this dude smoking cigars like what a dames want. I really want to see. It's so firmly 90s. It gives me like Singles vibes.
Oh yeah,
where it's just like, fuck, this is so 90s and grunge. That era of Drew Barrymore where she was like, I'm not a little kid anymore.
This is
I'm
Gen
rebelling.
X stuff. Like this is like as Singles was like really grunge, and this is moving into like the alt rock version of Gen X in that time. Like they play the same Cranberry song that was, I swear to God, in 80% of the movies in 1995.
Yeah. I want to note that the boys that are on the side in this are played by Matthew McConaughey, fresh out of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation. And I do believe James Remar is in this. And I'm
Noted
like, God, I hope he's
James
one of the...
Remar.
Yeah. I just being haunting. I want them both to I want Matthew McConaughey to be his True Detective like role. Just the most haunting dudes ever. But that makes me want to see this just because I really hope James Remar is one of the hunks in this. Is the age right? He's like the same age as Matthew McConaughey, right?
Yeah. He's in the Warriors.
He could be a hunk in this. Yeah, fuck.
He's probably a little bit older than McConaughey, but
yeah. But yeah, Boys on the Side.
Yeah,
Everybody
no, I
watch
remember
it.
this is another one I remember coming out that felt like an important film, capital letters to me as a 12-year-old.
I guess, yeah.
I don't know. I've never seen it. I definitely
Neither
want to watch
have
it now. I had forgotten entirely about it until this moment.
I also haven't seen this next film, and boy, I feel like hearing you guys talk about it and the notes.
Dave, this movie was made for you. It's not a courtroom movie.
Yeah, at first I thought it was. This is just cause. Just cause.
And who's the cast is everyone, right? Isn't this
Sean
movie where
Connery,
everyone
Lawrence
is in it?
Fishburne.
Blair Underwood?
Underwood.
Is that the guy? Yeah.
Blair Underwood, yeah.
I see Kate Capshaw's
That's
in
right,
this.
Kate Capshaw.
Ed Harris as, I assume,
He's
the villain.
White supremacist, if I remember correctly. He's like
Ned
their Hannibal
Beatty's
Lecter.
in this?
Hannibal Lecter.
Nice. Apparently, Scarlett Johansson's in this movie. I can't imagine as a major character,
Would she
but
be
she's credited.
Little
I believe
kid?
I believe she's Connery's daughter in this movie.
Well,
This
probably a little
doesn't
kid.
feel
She'd
like
be a little kid at this point, yeah.
Man, I just don't feel like a child on this set. Just sounds haunting
Oh,
to
yeah,
me.
man.
I'm like, no.
Did you kill her?
This is another type of movie that it felt like every third movie you watched in the 90s was this, where it's Prestige has like the gloss of Prestige. It's a crime thriller, but it's a mystery, and there's a twist every 20 minutes. And if I'm remembering correctly, and this is not a spoiler because I'm going off my vague memory from literally 28 years ago when I would have seen this on VHS on one of my sad movie nights. It's one of those things where a guy is accused of a crime, and then they go seek out Sean Connery, who somehow was already old in 1995 because he's playing like a retired, like, I haven't practiced law in 25 years. It's like, Jesus, how old are you? That was 30 years ago. Anyways.
He retired at 40?
They seek him out to like exonerate this guy who's falsely accused, and it's twist, and then it finally gets back around to actually the final twist is that original guy did it. And then I just remember the finale as the villain, once he's revealed, whoever it is, I actually don't know, that he gets eaten by alligators. Spoiler.
He sure does.
Oh, man.
And
it's also from the writer of Die Hard and The Fugitive, for the record.
Oh, Jeb Stewart?
Yeah.
But you could do that because back in the 90s, you had these movies that it's a B movie. Like, it's a B movie plot. The Fugitive, same way, but it would have that gloss of important movie. Oscar winners across the board, like 5 different Academy Award winning actors in this movie. And so you're watching this, the killer get eaten by a swarm of alligators, and you're just like nodding like, yes, that is, that is how the justice system works in this country, isn't it? We're all getting eaten by gators in a Florida swamp. So no,
the alligators are taxes, you see.
It's pure cheese, but it takes itself so seriously, and that was so much of the 90s was like this. It was just
yeah.
It's a
number 2 movie in America.
It's a real 90s crime thriller for sure.
Yeah.
This probably made its budget back 5 times over. This stuff used to just cash. Just
used to be money. A lot of movies that came out every year. I saw this in the theater.
Yeah, you did.
And at one point, my stepdad leaned over to me and said, "Looks like Lawrence Fishburne is Lawrence Fish Food."
Oh shit!
You read into that.
So I guess we know who got eaten by alligators in this.
The answer might surprise you.
Ooh.
Remember how Jason was saying there's a twist every 5 minutes?
Oh right. I need to see this real bad.
I'll also let you know that, just real quick, the scene in the trailer where it's Lawrence Fishburne going like, "Scream!" What he's doing is strangling Sean Connery with his seatbelt in the seat next to him. Because he's taking him through the crime that happened, and that's what happened to the victim.
He's got that little cigar the whole time.
Yeah, yep. He's wearing that the cigarillo.
It's so good.
It's hard just from the trailer to know who is bad because they all seem kind of bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody, you're suspicious of it. It's one of those movies where Lawrence Fishburne is a fucking maniac in this movie, so you never really know if he's good or bad.
Everybody just competing with each other to see who could chew the scenery the hardest. Everybody just, there's no subtlety in 90s cinema.
I love it.
I need to. I thought because I only remember the poster of this. I thought it was like a mob movie or something, and like those type of movies don't necessarily grab me.
Trying to solve a murder.
Right. And then I thought it was a courtroom drama. I'm like, oh, here we fucking go. And now it's like, no, we're a ridiculous thriller. And yeah, I need this in my life.
Your problem was these all had titles that were not descriptive at all.
Oh yeah,
because it was always
just like legal terms.
Presumed innocent. It's always like 2 words. Yeah, final analysis, final judgment, and like just cause. Like
double
that
jeopardy.
Movie, you could rename any movie on this list Just Cause, and it would apply equally. It's like Billy Madison could have been called Just Cause. Like, I can kind of see it. It just conveys nothing, and that was the genre.
Yep, just a random legal phrase. It's most Ashley Judd movies.
Oh yeah,
double jeopardy.
It's so hard. I have that with the Harrison Ford Jack Ryans, where I'm like, which one is which? Like, which one is the Clear and Present Danger, and which one is the Patriot Game? It's always so fucking interchangeable. So, what was the number 1 movie in February of 1995? You might ask, folks. It was the Brady Bunch movie.
It sure was.
I remember watching the trailer for this as a kid. I've never seen an episode of the Brady Bunch.
I remember the trailer verbatim. Actually, I saw it so many times. I'm not sure why. I think it's at the beginning of a video that I had. But anyway, probably.
I don't. I guess it's. I don't remember it being like a particularly well-known film.
It was shockingly popular at the time when it came out.
Well, it's the 90s basically being like, remember the 70s, right? And there was like the Beverly Hillbillies was that too.
Yeah.
And me as a child was like, no, I don't remember the 70s.
Right.
So the timing was the show was of the 70s. The reruns were wall to wall in the 80s. So in the 80s, there was like, because the kids probably don't realize this, but you can watch a movie from 20 years ago and everybody is dressed exactly the way they dress now. like the only way you would even know it's from a different era is the cars and the phones and their computer monitors are fat instead of thin. And that's it. People are wearing the exact same clothes. Well, there used to be a time when if a movie took place in the 70s, it was the 70s. Like you could not confuse if somebody from the 1970s showed up in the show Stranger Things, which takes place in the 80s, you would think they were in a Halloween costume because the decades used to be distinct, right? You know what I'm saying? Like you mentally picture somebody from the 1960s. You are picturing the 1960s. You're not picturing somebody who could be from the 1940s. Like, no, there used to be distinct decades. So it became very funny among the youth in the 80s to look at what seemed like a bygone era, even though it was only like 10 years ago. Whereas,
right.
Now something made 10 years ago, it's looks exactly the same. So in the 90s, the funniest joke in the world was just to reference the 70s. There didn't have to be a second joke. So like this trailer is nothing but look at these outfits, look at these hairstyles, look at this phrasing they're using. That's it. That's the joke. There's no second part of it. It's just look at how funny the 70s were. And it's so lazy. This is one of the worst trailers I've ever seen. I distinctly remember when this movie came out and thinking that looks tragic. That looks like the worst thing in the world. And I remember this finishing #1 at the box office after, and burying, like by this point, Pulp Fiction had been out for many months. And it's like, I don't know who's going to see this thing. And I assumed it was just people it was just pure sad nostalgia for their lost youth, because there's not a single moment in this trailer that even hints at comedy.
That's the thing. As a kid watching this, I just thought, oh, they're doing a Brady Bunch thing. Cool. Like, I didn't know it was being done ironically. Like, I'm now looking at the cast, like, rewatching this. Yeah, Gary Cole. And I'm like, oh, shit.
And, oh, gosh.
Sally Sitwell's in there.
Sally Sitwell, yeah. What's her freaking name?
Christine Taylor.
There it is.
Yeah, and like it didn't even occur to me watching this as an adult, like now realizing like, oh shit, there's Michael McKean. This is a comedy, isn't it?
It's pretty close to Blast from the... I have seen this. It's been a long time, but it's closer to like Beavis and Butthead, like mixed with Blast from the Past. And the comedy is just pulled from... They are frozen in the 70s and they're just completely oblivious to everything around them.
Right.
It's like cute, but I haven't seen it in a long time either. And of course...
I think it's...
I didn't grow up in the 70s, so...
It's weird to say, but I do think this is probably a good... If you had to sit down and go, we need to make a new Brady Bunch movie, they're essentially doing the Barbie movie, right?
It's not a bad
idea.
idea.
That's what they're doing. They're doing a satire.
The idea was kind of clever at the time. My 12-year-old self,
Yeah, they're saying like, all right, well, we can't do it like unironically, right? We have to just take the piss out of it a little bit. And so like I kind of, I get what they were doing. It's just that this trailer is so not anything that like I didn't even get that it was a fucking satire.
Yeah, I mean they're not good jokes.
It's what you said, Jason. It's just like, yeah, look at how naive they are,
One of the gags is like Peter is getting carjacked. The guy runs up and says, "This is a carjack." And he says, "It is a car, but my name's not Jack." Like, that's the humor.
Right. Which is, I mean...
Yeah. You can do that style and be funny, but that's not a funny joke.
I was going to say, like, Airplane does that style just fine.
Sorry, Jason.
But it just... Yeah.
What guy would say this is a carjack in that situation? Right. It's just set up so awkwardly and... Oh man, how does that get past the first draft of your screenplay?
I think probably because it had the Brady Bunch movie written on the title page.
Yeah, I was gonna say they were probably just like, listen, we're making this whether or not.
Listen, this is happening.
I'm writing this. Yeah.
Like, why would he say carjack instead of carjacking? Why would he even say that? Why wouldn't he just say get out of the car? Anyway.
I want to note this is from the writer of My Girl. So similar tone.
So
similar
he probably shoots Peter then.
Yeah.
Or Mike. No, Mike's the dad. Which one was Johnny Bravo?
I have no idea what
I
you're
think that's
talking
Peter.
about.
Like he had a musical alter. Never mind. We can move on.
So yeah, Brady Bunch movie.
Number one film, February 1995.
My God. It beat out Pulp Fiction.
It sure did.
Yeah.
It sure did.
Well, we should move on to news stories, but first we have to thank some more producers.
Let's do it.
Big old thank you to Chester's Prophet.
Thank you.
Very much. Thank you to Christopher Robert Sparts Esquire.
Thank you.
Thank you to Dan Hackroyd.
Thank you.
Thank you to Dave Ruff. Thank you to
you.
David Knife Boot Henson. Thank you to Deborah's awesome. Barbara's great and cancer can go to hell.
Thank
you. Thank you to Driftless thinks he can dance like Baryshnikov out up Mount Everest. It's true. Thank you to Exploding Runes.
Thank you.
Thank you to Funky J Mostly Comes Out at Night Mostly.
Thank you.
Thank you to Heathcliff's Helping Handfuls.
Thank you so much.
And thank you to Highlander Likes Away Tom Says Pretty Sweet.
Hey, thanks.
You.
All right, let me jump in here. Thank you to Ombre.
Thank
you to Impossible Worlds. We have your Swaim, and we'll release him for the cost of your subscription.
Thanks.
Thank you to Joe Man, the annoying skeleton.
Thank you.
Thank you to Lieutenant Frank Drebin, Police Squad.
Thank
you to Look Mime on a podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you to Mackenzie Fuck Shufflin with Willem Dafoe's confusingly large dick. Chill.
Thank you.
Thank you to Mike the Lurker.
Thank you.
Thank you to Norm from Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you to Numinal Ultra Microscopic Silico Volcano Coniosis Anti-Disestablishmentarianism Jones.
Aha! Who's the asshole now?
Thank you to Psychic Bigfoot.
Thank you.
All right.
News stories. We got these headlines about Kathleen Kennedy expected to retire this year from Lucasfilm.
Yep.
I'm sure she'll be fine. She'll be all right.
And there's a new Star Wars trilogy being developed by Simon Kinberg, who is the person that took over the X-Men series after Bryan Singer fled the country.
I mean, he did, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
I here's the thing. I'm not one of those people who was like, fire Kathleen Kennedy. Like, you know, the people who are like, fire her for making the woke Star Wars, like that weird stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't like the new Star Wars. It's more like at this point where I'm like, yeah, I mean, they seem to have paralysis, like Star Wars paralysis, where
nobody is talking about that trilogy anymore.
They made that trilogy, and then they're like, well, we fucked up. And now they're just like, yeah, I guess she should retire, considering that she seems to refuse to make any more Star Wars, and she's the head of Lucasfilm. Yeah, I guess you should move on, right?
Yeah, it's so freaking weird.
I remember watching.
How hard is it to make a Star Wars movie?
Yeah.
When I finally got Disney Plus, because it came free with some device I bought, and watched The Mandalorian, the Baby Yoda show. And the first season of that, I thought, oh, this is delightful. This is what Star Wars actually should have been, is a freaking TV show where it's a Western. It's clearly just a Western. He shows up in a new town, and he needs something. And like, well, we're being menaced by whatever, this monster. Go kill this monster. And he goes out and he just goes on adventures with Baby Yoda. It's like, you could do this show for 50 straight years. Just put a different actor. You never see his face. The Pedro Pascal shows up on set like 2 days because he's not
in it at all the first season. They did not cast him until post-production, I believe.
He's recording these lines from his bedroom. He's sitting there with a mic and just mailing it in. It's like, you've come up with a perfect Star Wars thing because it should exist at this level. It's not deep lore sci-fi. It's not the freaking Lord of the Rings. It's a shallow Western. Cool dudes quipping with each other, getting into adventures, fighting monsters. That's your show. And I think by, season 2, they're like, well, now keep in mind, in order to understand the lore of this season, you need to have watched 4 episodes of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. And then this will be continued in the film, The Mandalorian and Grogu. And I just checked out. It's like, okay.
It's season 3, episode 1. I'd watched the first 2 seasons, loved it. And they're like, season 3, I was like, I don't know what's happening. What's happening? And I had to Google it. And you had to have watched Book of Boba Fett. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm done with the show. Like, that's it.
Because we're like, no, everything's got to feed into our giant corporate octopus of all of these other properties. It's like, no. You could have made this show for 20 years. It could have been the year 2043, and I would be watching an episode of, Baby Yoda has gotten kidnapped again, and I would watch it. It'd be like, I'm
I don't care
familiar
if
with
Kit
this.
was in the show at that point. Like literal Kit from Knight Rider could be in the show at that
He
point.
could be. He wouldn't be Baby Yoda. He'd be like 20-year-old Yoda.
Yeah.
And every time somebody came back, it's like, well, you should have Luke Skywalker show up, like as a Force ghost. Like, nope. That's not what we're doing. I'm going to make a show that's going to run forever. It is going to be a merchandising empire. Kids are going to be buying Baby Yoda toys for the next half a century. Trust me, it doesn't need to feed into the films. It doesn't need to tie into the lore. You does not need any crossover with the other stuff we're doing. We have a show that works with a formula that works. And we know this because the show Gunsmoke ran for like 45 years.
Right.
You will never run out of stories. Here's what you do. Every week, there's a new bad guy played by either a famous person or somebody doing a guest star, hamming it up, Timothy Oliphant, whatever. Have Carl Weathers drop in if he's not dead yet. Like, they will love to be a part of it. Come in, chew the scenery. This is a formula. I am watching Reacher on Amazon Prime. People love this formula of the Western, the traveling loner who goes town to town. It's like, well, yeah, but we've got to tie it into the other properties. No, you don't. You're wrong. No, you don't. This will print money forever, and they couldn't do it.
Make it so you can start the series at any episode. Do it the 90s. And that was the thing, is when in the first season, it was like, this is like the fucking 90s again. It's like this fun little...
It's also
like,
it was kind of like the first thing that finally delivered on the promise of Star Wars can be anything, even though it was still very much a typical Star Wars story. That first season, anyhow, it didn't connect to Skywalkers at all. It just it seemed to be its own story in its own corner of the universe. Like, it didn't have anything to do with the movies.
Right.
And that's I was so pumped at that first season. I was like, man, Star Wars is back.
I want to, like, I've never seen something get more like corporate brained and destroyed than Star Wars.
Man.
Like, I want a documentary just on how they dropped the ball, because it felt like it was like the self-sabotage where they're like, they did these 3 movies. They're like, you know what's a fun idea? Let's just have like a new person do each movie and change the plot line between movies, because it's like, okay, the J.J. Abrams starting it off, it wasn't like amazing, but it was like, all right, we got something going here. And it's like, okay, so they dropped the ball in that. And then the fucking Mandalorian, they're like, this is great. You know what would be fun though? If we fucked this up completely and like, made this like, because it's the Marvel, it was like... That's
what I was about to say. It's...
Yeah, the Marvel brain got to them and they're like, what if we're like Marvel too? And like Marvel...
I think it's less of that. I think a lot of it, well, I mean, that's definitely a part of it. I think a lot of it is like this first Star Wars came out in 2015, right? So it's already 7 years into the MCU juggernaut.
Right.
Like, they had hit the laziness at this point of where, in my opinion, like, this is around where the movies started to fall off, because they started to take for granted that each one was going to make $1 billion no matter what.
Right. Oh yeah, they stopped caring. They stopped giving a shit.
I think Star Wars was never anything but merchandise, I don't think. So it was like, I figured, it looks like, to me, it seems like they just figured they could put whatever, like, as long as it was Star Wars, and people would just eat it up because everybody loves Star Wars.
And I feel like they got to a point, here's my guess, is that they looked at their spreadsheet and they went, okay, guys, we're doing good. We're making money. All we have to do is not make anything. Like, that's what it feels like, where they're like, all right, so the numbers are slowly going up. We won't have to fire anybody if we just don't spend any money on anything else. And that's, it just, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
And I think Marvel needed to learn this lesson too, frankly, is that like, if you're going to be silly, and I want to use the word dumb, but like, you know what I mean by that, where it's like, you know, it's called Star Wars. Like, if you're going to do that, you have to make your story easy. And this idea of like, let's tie everything together is like, no, make it as simple to digest as humanly possible. And they just, they forgot that.
You go back to the origins of this, because like George Lucas, you know, again, his whole deal is he loved the Saturday morning serials he used to play before, you know, back in the 1950s, play in these brief little, not very long, just these very shallow adventures of, and it was Flash Gordon, and he couldn't get the rights to Flash Gordon, so he literally went through his script and just did a search and replaced the names of the Flash Gordon characters with the
Right.
Star Wars characters, and some stuff he just left it exactly as it was. Other things stolen directly from Dune, like the Spice Miners and stuff, just straight up
Right.
Dune. He didn't care because his sources, that was trash. Like Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers, those were comic strips. Like they were newspaper, a few panels and just that's it. Not even the depth of like a full comic book. They were just strips. And he knew that originally. Like it's beautiful and it's trash and it will change lives and people will watch this forever if done well. It's pulp. If that's the word you prefer, whatever, but it's not deep lore. It's not Dune where there's like, whole languages to study and all of that and getting deep into the philosophy. No, it's like all of Yoda's wisdom is just the most basic bumper sticker.
Yeah.
Like
it's real
just
meme shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, man.
Did fan fiction screw them up? Like, did they look at fan fiction and go like, oh, audiences love like deep, intricate lore? And it's like, no, 10 people like that on the internet. Like we don't embrace that.
I don't. They made all of the original like Star Wars novels and stuff not canon anymore.
Right.
So I don't know.
But they wanted to make their own intricate universe.
Yeah,
it felt
exactly.
Like.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't want this shit intricate. Yeah.
I just wanted to point out that like this new Star Wars trilogy that's being developed by Simon Kinberg is at least the third high-profile trilogy. There was one that was supposed to come from Rian Johnson, and then there was one that was supposed to come from the Game of Thrones guys, like Benioff and Weiss.
Right.
And both of those trilogies are now canceled. Like they cannot get any of these off the ground.
And there's individual standalone movies that have been attached to every famous director you've ever heard of that have just come and gone. They cannot get anything over the finish line. It's
at a certain point, I have to assume it's them, right? Like they get these people, they're like, "We'll give you a bunch of money." They get in the room with them, and the artists are like, "Oh,
this is the most
you guys are a fucking mess."
Yeah, this is the most corporatized franchise in existence, I'm sure.
Right. I assume
Like,
they
they're
just chase these people away.
Yeah, they're paralyzed by that.
Yeah,
trying
they really are.
Write one of these movies has to be a living hell. Because what's the final movie in the trilogy, the sequel trilogy called? The Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker.
You could swap those titles around to any of the three movies and they would all be exactly as meaningful. They're so forgettable. But
yeah, in fact, the first movie, people have talked about it, seems like it should have been called Rise of Skywalker.
Because
it's
literally,
way more,
But like that movie, it's so obvious that they rewrote the story in the editing room. And there's so much ADR from like behind actors.
Oh, yeah.
And there's so much, it's like, I think that Palpatine was a last minute addition. Like I think that was all added after they shot the movie. And the whole MacGuffin, the little navigator thing.
The magic knife?
It's supposed to be.
It's a Goonies. They do a Goonies treasure hunt.
It clearly in some earlier version was a device called a holocron. It's like their version of like a hard drive they changed. It's like, well, no, what if it's a navigator that tells you where to find it? Which makes no sense. Like, I cannot imagine they wrote it on the fly and then had to reshoot it however many times. And this is how you wind up spending like $350 million on a movie because you're not shooting a movie. You're shooting it over and over again. I can't imagine the pressure they were under. I can't imagine sitting there in that editing bay. It's like trying to cobble together entire plot lines in the editing booth.
Because by the end, I imagine the writer and director, they'll come to them and go like, we need to add this knife. And they probably just go like, sure, fucking sure.
Whatever.
Give me a day. Like it's that where it's like they probably just creatively break everybody down. And then it's just like, no one cares.
And the special effects teams, like having to do that stuff on deadline and coming back and say, okay, well, instead of like one Star Destroyer, we need to be like, there to be like 1,000 of them.
Yeah, now
it's
the
like,
shots are completely different.
Where did they come from? Like the Emperor used magic to make Star Destroyers. He used a force magic. It's like, what?
The Emperor?
Who's the crew on board the ships? Did they train? Where did he get 1 million people to staff these? They all have. This has to come out next month.
They're like, listen,
they're not moving the date.
And there's so much like, oh God, do you remember how they clearly saw like Avengers Endgame had just come out and they were like, oh, we need that as our ending too.
Yeah.
Where they have the
all
whole
the heroes
galaxy.
show up inexplicably. Oh, Jesus.
They have a cinematic universe show up of movies that never existed, where it's like all these ships. And they're like, yeah, we're all here, and I'm like, I don't know who the fuck you guys are, or you were just introduced in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, I want to watch that movie now.
Man,
Holy
I'm
shit.
I
what a
would
real piece
if
of shit
somebody
that
made a
is.
documentary about the making of it. I mean, a real documentary, not promoting it, but like an honest. Here's what I would find that riveting, because I bet you would get more insight into what it's like to make a franchise in this era, in this environment, than anything else. Like, because we're saying this because the news story is Kathleen Kennedy retiring. I think that job had to have been a living hell. I'm sure it paid well.
Oh, yeah.
I would not have traded places with her.
No. Thankless job,
No.
I'm sure. Ugh.
And anyway,
Let's move on.
Amazon now owns James Bond. So speaking
Hooray.
of, yeah,
Speaking of
they
people
own the
who are-
creative rights.
people who are paralyzed by corporate mind,
Yeah.
corporate think.
Somebody already tweeted about how, oh yeah, they're going to cast a bald guy with a vest for the next James Bond. He's just going to be Jeff Bezos. I'm kind of like, yeah, do it. Fuck it.
I
don't know
if the average person realizes that Bond was unique, that there was a group of producers, a pair of producers who held tight control over it. And for the last, they were the ones in charge of casting the new Bond. They were the ones who made that decision, and they would not let it be turned into junk. They wouldn't let it be turned into a TV series, streaming series. Like, they were extremely protective, and they would go years between releases because they didn't want to rush something out there. Like, they were extremely protective of the brand, of the quality. They wanted every Bond movie to be good. But they took a gigantic paycheck.
There's a few like this where you learn about the rights and you're like, this family is very protective of the, like why we don't get certain franchises or stuff. But like, it's funny because I do like the new Bonds, but it's always been silly.
They're always silly, but there's always a certain level of production value. There's always a certain level of, they don't
stunts.
Stunts, exactly. I mean, except for that last Brosnan one.
Oh yeah.
But they really do try to make each one feel like an event, and they don't oversaturate with it. Like Jason said, there's like usually several years in between Bond movies.
Yeah.
It's silly, but there's a certain level of anyway.
Oh yeah. I personally, it's easy for me to not care because I was never a huge fan.
I'm not a huge fan either. I do like them. I've seen all of them.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, actually, no. I take that back. I have not seen all of the Daniel Craig ones. I have not seen Spectre, and I haven't seen
Spectre.
The last
is the problem. Spectre, I believe, has the Marvel brain, where it was like it's pre-Marvel brain. It's the different. It's the where Spectre was secretly behind all the previous movies. It was that where they were like trying to tie in all the villains. And then No Time to Die was actually I really liked that one. If you guys have seen it, it was like very nihilistic where it was like, what, fuck it. Let's just do a completely different type of Bond movie. It had kind of a glorious scene where it was Daniel Craig and Ana de Armas doing a, she's the babe and they do an action scene together. And then he basically shakes her hand like a colleague. And it's just like, oh yeah, I'm way too old for you. See you. And it's like, oh, wow. Like they basically knew that everybody was like, oh fuck, he's going to have a scene where he fucks her. And it's like, no, man, I'm like 50 later. I kind of want to watch it again now. It was neat.
Yeah.
They could have done more of that, but yeah. Who knows what's going to happen now, I guess. Yeah, like the casting director quit or something like that. Like this is a big like
they bought the creative rights for a few $1 billion. That's
right.
All
It's
I know.
like
they cashed out, which okay.
Yeah, it's very much Lucas selling Star Wars, where it's like it's going to fundamentally change now.
Yes.
So we'll see, I guess. I assume it'll be a series, right? Amazon.
Most likely.
Yeah.
I think that's still the way you make the most money. I don't know. The model keeps changing. I think they still want 10 hours of a thing instead of 2 hours. But gosh, Bond, I don't know. I mean, you could have done a weekly James Bond TV show in the 1980s, but there's a reason they didn't. It's supposed to be an event. He's saving the world. It's a huge thing each time. But whatever.
I guess we'll see. All right. Should we thank some more producers?
Let's do it.
All right. Big old thank you to Pumpkin Spiced Ed Nog. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to Rev MD.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to Ricky Cilantro.
Thank you.
Thank you to Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you to Rosemary's Baby from Eraserhead.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to Ryan, the Silly Money Goose.
Thank you.
Thank you to Screaming Horse Pyramid.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to Sorry Cop, world's most laughable centrist.
Thank you.
Thank you to Steven.
Thank you.
Thank you to Sweet Keel.
Thank you. All right, let me take over. Thank you to the conveniently placed self-destruct button on the top of every baby's head.
Thank you.
Thank you to the Midnight Patron. What patrons at midnight?
Thank you.
Thank you to the Oatmeal Savage.
Thank you.
Thank you to the Tubi Terror Bunny. Thinks you could use more Rutger Hauer in your media diet.
Thanks.
Thank you to these 7 Bs.
Thanks.
Thank you to Tiger Drawers, Pratt Thompson. Raindrops keep falling on my head.
Thank you.
Thank you to Tip Drizzle.
Thank you.
Thank you to Tux.
Thanks.
Thank you to Vincent.
Thank
Thank you to Will Rhymes with Bill or Bill Rhymes with Will.
Thanks.
And finally, thanks to your mom. That's right.
Thank you.
Yours.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's the one.
Dave, we got to step back into the time machine and get back to our own time, or else we're gonna time cop everything up, or we're gonna turn it a little Ron Silver goo puddles.
Oh yeah, we're gooey.
But before we get back into the time machine, do you have a movie that deserves more hype?
You know I do. I really do.
Magnificent.
Yeah. This movie that deserves more hype is called Gazer. Like Razor. This is coming to limited theaters April 5th. I assume it'll be on streaming right after. I mean, if you're in a major city, you can probably see it in theaters. It's really just like it seemed like the reviews were comparing it to like Memento. Where it's just like, this is a solid indie noir thriller. It's about a lady who has a brain issue where she, I believe, just like skips time. She like keeps like that Futurama episode. She just starts missing time. She picks up a job where she has to drive something for somebody. And then sure enough, there's a crime. It looks like a murder. And it's sort of about her trying to figure out what happened while she is obviously not a reliable narrator. It's been compared to, like Memento and Videodrome for some reason, which made me go, like kind of wonder what the fuck's going on in it. The director is a first-time director. All the reviews are obsessed with. He was an electrician who is making movies during the day, which I get it because it's very much like your Kevin Smith story where it's like, oh yeah, he's just an everyday guy who took a chance and made this movie. And all the reviews seem to really like the movie. It's just a very, frankly, it reminds me of like 90s indie energy, right? So what'd you guys think of this?
One difference, if you go look up this trailer, listeners, called Gazer, Gazer, the difference between this trailer and this trailers they were putting out back in 1995 for huge blockbusters, it is night and day. There's more like filmmaking in this trailer, and the way it's edited and the way it's cut together, it creates a mood. They've come so far. Trailers used to be so corny and straightforward for the most part. They're a rare masterpiece, but this is for this indie release with no budget. I'm assuming no promotion budget. I would like to think that this director probably cut this trailer together himself, maybe, but it's excellent. It was shot in 16 millimeter, by the way, as well. So like that grit in the trailer is pretty like authentic. I guess,
Sweet. No, I think this looks good. I like that she has this headphones that she's listening to that will remind her like to come back and stay focused if she starts to drift a little bit.
Oh yeah, it's her tattoos.
Yeah, which is it's kind of similar to a problem that I have. So I'm interested to see this movie, to see how they to see what it's.
Are you mementoing?
No, I don't have a memory problem. I have a I don't. It's like a associate. I don't know. I will drift away sometimes.
I think that's called ADHD, Tom.
And have to make an effort. I've been tested for that. It wasn't that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, also a lot of the reviews say the actress in this really makes it as well. I think she's a single mother as well in it, so it's about like the stress of that, and needing the money, but also getting tied up in this weird noir. So yeah, I don't know. It looks really, it just looks really good and unique and gritty, and everybody check it out.
Yeah,
Gazer. Yeah, at least watch the trailer.
Yeah, the trailer's dope.
And if this film gets enough notice and enough acclaim, then this director will be rewarded with a Marvel movie.
Exactly.
That's how this works. He'll get a Disney Plus streaming. He'll get the Incredible Hulk 4. So you just have to hope that's...
Or a Jurassic World if we're really lucky.
Yeah.
He'll be able to make something that has none of his voice in it, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you've done it. Hey, you've graduated. You don't have to worry about that stuff anymore.
You never have to make art again.
Oh, that's the life.
Oh man, I guess that's a sode. Let's be done.
Jason, thank you so much.
Thank you
for being on. Do you want to, at the end of this, tell us something right here, right now?
I will say that I thought the premise of this episode was we were going to pretend that it was the year 1995. We were going to do a whole bit, and I had all these catchphrases like, well, talk to the hand. And I was trying to remember all the mid-90s catchphrase and all the Monica Lewinsky jokes we all thought was hilarious back then, but instead we were just looking back. So whatever, it's fine. Nobody would have liked it. Nobody would have got what we were doing.
I would have.
We had that idea initially, I think, last year, and then we decided it would just have been exhausting.
Everybody would hate it. Yeah, it would be funny for about 1 minute, and then everybody would hate it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, you don't want to plug anything at the end?
I'm Jason K. Pargin on TikTok, where I have over 600,000 followers now. And the book, again, allegedly... which has always been $30 in hardcover and $15 in ebook form because of my personal greed only. The publisher wanted to sell it at a discount. I said no.
Yeah.
No, Daddy likes cheese. I do not want poor people reading my books. But this Sunday on March 2nd, I'm told they're going to do a one-day sale of $2.99 in ebook form against my will. And then after that, I think they're going to actually jack up the price even more to make it up to me. I think they're going to be like $50 a piece after that, just because, no, I need that money back.
Yeah.
I've got debts. Daddy's got gambling debts.
Yep. I'll plug our Patreon, patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed, GAMEFULLY, unemployed. For $5 a month, you get access to exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder's Maniacs, Star Trek Next Futurama, and Spiel Boys. And we watch movies every Friday night with our patrons. That's another tier. I'm just sensing that we got to watch some of those new Star Wars soon.
Probably.
I'm itching to now.
I think we did it with Cody the last time we did it.
Yeah, we watched that and fucking, was it Strange Magic? Yeah,
I feel like we watched Rise of Skywalker again more recently than that. But anyway, we also have a store. Head over to gamefullyunemployed.com where we have a link to our Teespring store where we have all kinds of cool original artwork by cool original artists like Starlene Hodge, Michael Vincent Bramley, Justin Brown, and others. So check that out. Check out our new show, Badical, BADICAL, wherever you get your podcasts. Rate and review. It helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye. Hey, listen, our music is produced by Chris Corlew. You can find him on twitter.com as The Corlew or go to shipwrecked.bandcamp.com. Our channel artwork is produced by Michael Vincent Bramley. For more of his work, go to mvbramley.art. Our episode artwork is by Justin Brown, available on Twitter as Justin T. Brown or at artistbyjustinbrown.com. And finally, additional artwork is by Starlene Hodge. You can find her work at starlenearts.com or on Twitter as StarleneX. Cool. Goodbye.